The government puts the brake on a civil service water contract with a supplier of mainland bottled water suspected of illegal activities. More people are arrested as police stepped up in cracking down illegal ride-hailing services in the city. And the much-anticipated summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin inks no deal to end the war in Ukraine after Trump rolled out a red carpet for Putin. Good evening. You're watching Cable News. I'm Jeremy Chu. The government has suspended a newly granted contract with a company supplying mainland brand bottled drinking water to some civil servant officers, as an investigation has been launched over alleged unlawful behavior involving the supplier. Jamie Liu has more.
The bottled water supplier in question is Xin Ding Xin Trade, or XDX, which has an office in North Point. Our crew has visited the address, but there was no response at the door, and no one picked up the phone. In June, the government awarded XDX a contract to supply mainland-made bottled drinking water branded Xinle to its offices on Hong Kong Island and parts of the outlying islands following a tender exercise. XDX won the tender at a price of nearly $53 million to supply 1.88 million bottles, according to official records. However, just 2 months into the 3-year contract, the Logistics Department announced a suspension. In a statement, the department expressed doubts about the supplier's ability to fulfill its obligations under the contract after receiving information on XDX's business operation. However, authorities did not further explain what they had learned about the firm. Officials warned that contract termination is possible and had reported the case to police, stressing that the bottled water from all of its suppliers are safe after confirming with a test of the water samples. Leung Chau-ting, chairperson of the Hong Kong Federation of Civil Service Unions, urged the government to tighten tender oversight. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Police have arrested 5 individuals for allegedly recruiting mainland drivers to illegally operate ride-hailing services in the city for profit, following reports from passengers who encountered drivers fluent only in Mandarin and unfamiliar with local routes. Cheryl Yun reports.
3 of the arrestees are local residents aged between 41 and 65 and were part of a syndicate that began recruiting mainland drivers to enter Hong Kong as visitors around mid-2025. The syndicate provided these drivers with private vehicles and e-map taxi ride-hailing platform accounts registered under syndicate members' names. Drivers were required to share 50% of the fare for each trip with their recruiters. Authorities noted that the syndicate operated with a clear division of labor and had registered 18 identical hybrid private vehicles under a single address, functioning like a fleet. Some ride-hailing accounts were found to be registered using forged Hong Kong identity cards. The remaining 2 arrestees were mainland drivers charged with carrying passengers for reward, breaching conditions of stay, and driving without third-party insurance. Police also identified significant loopholes in the e-map taxi platform's registration process and are working with the platform to address these issues proactively. Cheryl Yun, Cable News.
Health officials warned that preventing and controlling chikungunya fever remains challenging amid the city's hot weather. On the treatment front, the hospital authority is exploring new options, though no vaccination is expected to be introduced in the SAR anytime soon.
In an interview with iCable News, Edwin Choi, controller of the Center for Health Protection, said the risk of the disease becoming endemic rather than just imported cannot be ignored. Studies suggest the virus could be passed between generations of mosquitoes, meaning offspring of infected mosquitoes may also carry the virus, he said. Meanwhile, Choi said authorities are studying integrated traditional Chinese and Western medicine treatments for chikungunya fever, using scientific data and evidence to assess future feasibility. He noted that traditional Chinese medicine could be particularly helpful in treating chronic joint pain, a major symptom of the disease. He cited TCM's role in alleviating COVID-19 symptoms as an example of its potential benefits. While vaccines for chikungunya fever are available in some regions, Choi said the Center for Health Protection recently held a meeting and concluded that Hong Kong's current mosquito control measures are sufficient. Scientific data does not yet support the need for vaccination in the city.
Results of a public consultation showed that a vast majority of respondents are upset about the proposed registration of same-sex partner relationships bill, fearing its potential impact on traditional family values.
The consultation was launched after the government drafted the bill in response to a Court of Final Appeal ruling. Around 10,000 submissions were received, with 80% expressing opposition. Among those who objected, most raised concerns about the potential impact on traditional marriage, family values, ethical norms, and even procreation. Some also feared the bill could be seen as tacit recognition of same-sex marriage. Supporters, however, argued that legal protections should be extended to same-sex couples, saying the bill reflects Hong Kong's commitment to diversity and inclusion. In response, the government stressed that the bill adheres to the court's judgment and clarified that the registration mechanism does not grant same-sex partnerships the same legal status as marriage, nor does it alter the definition of traditional marriage.
Hong Kongers are set to brace for a rainy Sunday with the chance of a tropical cyclone warning signal being issued around midnight.
Under the current forecast, a low-pressure area is expected to move northwards towards Hainan Island and the western coast of Guangdong. Combined with the influence of a high-pressure ridge over southeastern China, wind speeds in the city are expected to increase. The observatory will monitor local wind conditions and consider issuing a strong monsoon signal if necessary. If the system intensifies into a tropical cyclone, the weather forecaster will evaluate its strength and proximity to the city before deciding whether to raise a tropical cyclone warning. The earliest assessment could come around midnight.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a historic summit in Alaska. While it ended with no apparent ceasefire for the war in Ukraine, the two leaders described their talks as productive. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said after a phone call with Trump that he plans to meet Trump in Washington on Monday. Jamie Liu wraps up the summit.
With Putin's arrival in Anchorage, Alaska, the first U.S.-Russia leaders summit in 4 years officially began. The pair shook hands and had a brief exchange. The two leaders, each accompanied with two of their top officials, sat down for talks. Bombarded by questions from journalists, they offered no response before the 2.5-hour-long closed-door meeting.
President Putin, why should President Trump trust your word now?
Summarizing their conversation at a joint news conference, both Trump and Putin made no mention of any ceasefire plans or direct Russia-Ukraine talks. Trump admitted that they haven't quite got there, but there were some great progress.
So there's no deal until there's a deal. There are just a very few that are left. Some are not that significant. One is probably the most significant, but we have a very good chance of getting there. We didn't get there.
Putin claimed he and Trump had reached an understanding on Ukraine and warned Kyiv and Europe not to torpedo the nascent progress. The Russian leader also said he agreed with Trump on ensuring Ukraine's security without offering any details. He added that the war in Ukraine would not have happened if Trump had been president in 2022. Meanwhile, in a rare gesture, Putin spoke in English to suggest a meeting in Russia.
We'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening.
Following the U.S.-Russia talks, Trump had a phone call with Zelensky. The Ukraine leader said he plans to travel to Washington for an in-person meeting with the U.S. president on Monday. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin appeared the primary beneficiary of the Alaska summit with U.S. President Donald Trump as a red carpet welcome on U.S. soil ended years of Western isolation. The meeting, marked by pomp and ambiguous rhetoric, concluded without tangible peace progress in Ukraine, but delivered notable political highlights. Quentin Yang shares some key takeaways.
Putin's arrival at Alaska's joint base Elmendorf-Richardson featured a hero's reception. Trump personally applauded him on the tarmac, while B-2 bombers and F-35 jets staged a rare flyover together. In a striking gesture, Putin rode alongside Trump in the presidential limousine, grinning through the window, a global broadcast of his diplomatic rehabilitation. The scene starkly contrasted with his status as an international criminal court indicted prior just months earlier. Departing from protocol, Trump let Putin speak first, post-summit. Putin emphasized eliminating the conflict's root causes, interpreted as demanding annexed Ukrainian territories and blocking NATO expansion. Trump, uncharacteristically brief, deferred details but later shifted responsibility to Ukraine. As he told Fox News, now it's really up to President Zelensky to make a deal. He also retreated from threatening Kremlin severe consequences for refusing a ceasefire, stating sanctions were unnecessary for now. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was excluded from the summit, though Trump pledged to brief him and NATO allies. Fighting continued in Ukraine during the talks, with air raid sirens blaring in Kharkiv as the leaders' press conference ended. Putin closed the summit by inviting Trump to Moscow, a move Trump called interesting despite anticipating a little heat. When pressed on disagreements, Trump refused to elaborate, stating only that Ukraine has to agree to unresolved terms. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
Air Canada has suspended all flights after 10,000 flight attendants walked off the job early Saturday, stranding an estimated 130,000 passengers daily in the first cabin crew strike at the carrier since 1985. Quentin Yang reports.
The strike began at around 1 a.m. local time, prompting the airline to lock out staff and halt operations indefinitely. The Canadian Union of Public Employees called the 72-hour strike after 8 months of negotiations collapsed over pay and unpaid ground duties. Air Canada has offered a 38% total compensation increase over 4 years, including a 25% first-year raise, but the union rejected it as below inflation, below market value. Federal Jobs Minister Patty Hajdu met with both sides Friday night, urging a return to bargaining and criticizing the lack of progress as unacceptable. The carrier sought binding arbitration to end the strike, but QP refused, accusing the airline of negotiating in bad faith. The deadlock has already cancelled 623 flights, affecting 100,000 passengers since Friday, with all 700 daily flights scrapped Saturday. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy with a few showers and thunderstorms. Showers will increase gradually with squalls tomorrow and will be heavier at times. Temperatures will range between 26 and 29 degrees. That's our news tonight. I'm Jeremy Zhu. Thanks for watching and good night.